Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Hacking HR's live October event, Employee Experience, using AI to reinvent the human experience at work. I'm Daniela Page. I'm Hacking HR's Chief Learning Officer, and I'm coming at you live today from the Riviera Maya in Mexico, and just wondering where our audience is coming in at today. So please feel free to leave us a few comments and tell us where you are located in the world. We're always interested to see where our folks are coming in from. Jessa, will you kindly bring our expert panelists to the stage, please? There they are. Hey, everybody. How's it going? Everybody doing good this morning?
Not as good as being in Riviera Maya.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It's pretty great. It's pretty great. I would love for each of you to kind of go around the table and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about what you do and why you love this topic so much. You must love it if you're here today. So maybe we'll start with you, Cyprian.
Brilliant. Hopefully I can find the unmute button easier this time. So my name is Cyprian. I'm dialing in from London, UK. In my day job, I head off the Global People Experience, HR Transformation and Analytics team for an organization just over 30,000 people in the gaming, gambling, entertainment industry. And I've been working in the field of people experience for, I think, almost 10 years now, when it was still quite incipient times. Done a bit of work around the future of work and understanding the role of people experience in the future of work. And I think in the last 2-3 years, with the explosion of AI on the market, we've been looking at what role does AI play in developing, enhancing, and build almost like building at scale new experiences at work for people. So really excited to be part of this conversation today, to share some of the things that we're doing within my organization, but also some of the research and work that we've done on the market.
Great to have you. Great to see you again. And Anush?
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Anuj Kathuria. I'm dialing in from Mumbai, India. After having spent over 2 decades in corporate life at various C levels, I ventured into getting my own consulting setup. And for the past 2 years, I'm running my own company called Cognitio, which focuses on HR digitalization, HR transformation, and operating model design. This topic is very close to my heart for 2 reasons. I have been on both sides of the coin, the receiving end and the one that actually crafted employee experience, both with the help of AI and without the help of AI. And for that matter of fact, have seen number of successes and multitudes of failures while doing so. So happy to be here to share what I've learned over the last 2.5 odd decades, and learn from my colleagues as well.
It's nice to meet you. We're happy to have you here. And it looks like we have similar plants in our backgrounds too. Wayne, will you please introduce yourself?
I will. Thank you very much. Glad to be here as usual for great Hacking HR session. I'm Wayne Tarkett. I'm calling in from South Jersey, right outside of Philadelphia in the States. I've been an HR practitioner for 20 plus years. Always enjoyed working with leaders in all different organizations and sizes. And I'm really excited about the impact of AI on HR. I really think it can help us demonstrate more value in the organization. In terms of employee experience, that's an area that we've all struggled with, given the increased demand based upon the stress in the workplace, elections, pandemic, things like that. And so I also teach a course at University of Pennsylvania, developing the agile leader in the organization. This year, we're going to be adding a AI component to that to really help organizations figure out where AI could be impactful. So looking forward to the conversation and learning from my panelists like I do every time.
Thank you so much, Wayne. Glad you're here. And last but not least, Sally.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Sally, calling in from Montreal, Canada. I've also been an HR practitioner for over 15 years now. HR practitioner accidentally turned into entrepreneur because I implemented an HR technology internally and realized everybody needed that. So HRWise is a cloud-based HRIS solution, and we service most of North America at this time. I'm really excited to be here. If you hear my background, because there's still, unfortunately, 2024, a lot of hesitance to change when it comes to AI. And I'm not here to argue that, because we're in it. AI is here. So the talk about, what happens with AI, there is no talk of what's going to happen. It's here. So I think it's a nice discussion to have about accepting it and how it can benefit us, and kind of switching the gears from what's going to happen to it's here, now what. So that's what I'm excited about today.
I like it. I like it. Well, great. Thanks, everybody. We're so grateful that you're here, and I'm excited about the convos today. So I think we're going to get started off with some questions for each of you that I have, and then later on we'll look at some more general questions for the entire group. But Anuj, with your experience in transforming HR practices, how do you see AI being used to create more personalized and satisfying employee experiences?
Danielle, great question. And I wish there was a single answer to that question. It's a question that experts all across the world are still grappling with. There have been successes and there have been moments of learning for many people across the world. I think it's important to understand that AI is something that's not new, that we've seen in the last 3, 4, 5 years. AI has been there since 1994. I'm sure many people will be shocked to hear that. Your spam filter in your email was the very first example of AI in action. Yes, over the course of years, there has been a lot of development. Multitude of models of AI have come into play. I think from my perspective, technology is only an enabler. It can augment your experience. It cannot define your employee experience. In many transformations that I have been part of, whether as part of a corporate team or during my consulting stints, what I've seen work is a synergistic union of human intelligence and artificial intelligence. True AI, or at the way AI is today, it cannot truly create what you call a hyper personalized or hyper contextualized employee experience. Now, I'll tell you why. Let's look at your entire employee life cycle, which commences from the time somebody is a prospect or a candidate to join your organization, and it ends when someone exits the organization and becomes an alum of the organization. Now, for someone, this could be 5 years, someone, this could be 1 year, someone, this could be 35, 40 years as well. Now, during this period, during this entire chain, there would be over 360 to 345 moments of that really matter, moments of magic or moments of misery. Now, these are touch points wherein actual union of human intelligence and AI is required. Now, why AI can't itself do everything? Simple stuff. I'll ask you all of you a question. Just go to Chat GPT or Gemini or Paradox or any other AI tool that you guys have used. Ask any question to all these simultaneously, and you will figure out the answers are different. Why? If the base is same, AI is same, why are the answers different? You ask the same question sitting in your continent, I ask the same question sitting in my continent. The answers might be same with some basic changes. For any employee experience, which we call truly personalized and truly hyper contextualized, what you require is to understand that respective persona, that respective employee's needs, that respective employee's user journey. And for that to happen, yes, AI can augment, but you need to have human intelligence come and define those journeys. AI is not going to define those journeys. It is as good as the input it gets. It's garbage in, garbage out. That truly works for AI. Your data quality, it defines the output that your AI model is going to throw you. So from that perspective, the design, the architecture of what your employee experience has to be looking like, it has to be co-developed with that employee in mind, with that employee and the architect of that experience. Now there are multiple places where AI can actually augment that experience to create the personalization effect. For example, if you want to create a truly hyper contextualized and hyper personalized learning experience for somebody, you need to understand what that person's learning needs are, both from the current role perspective, the next role perspective, career perspective. What are the person's individual needs versus the organizational needs? What people like him are learning? What competency or what proficiency levels does this person really have? Where he needs to go? Now, an AI is not going to define that for you. There has to be data input, there has to be a design behind that. And that is where the human intelligence comes into play. Once you have those proper data inputs, then the way you design your statistical model, your machine learning algorithms, they can help augment that experience. But if you say that AI alone is going to do that, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen today.
Thank you, Anuj. That's awesome. Does anyone have any comments or questions for Anuj?
Yeah, I guess it was a really great summation, Anush. Just to kind of recap, I think the power of AI is in personalization. It used to be in HR, we did one size fits all, right? We had to create a program and everybody had to use it. Now with AI, we can customize it. And as Noosh was saying, people have different capabilities. They learn things differently. And so, we have to customize that. And so the employee experience interaction with their employer can be modified for lot size of one so that people can feel that the organization is really delivering what I need. I'm able to talk to somebody. Things like evaluations, much more customized, continuous feedback, personalized learning journeys, all these things AI can help. But again, it's how it's implemented, right? That's the big issue. Many organizations will go full bore, spend lots of money, and then no one uses it. So we believe an incremental approach is much better to kind of learn as you go.
That's great. Wayne, while we have you, I've got a question for you. Given your expertise in HR tech strategy, how do you see AI impacting employee engagement and retention in today's evolving workplace?
I think it can make a big difference. It's technology is technology. I think, as Anush was saying, it's how you use it that matters, right? And there's different platforms. There's Gemini, there's ChatGPT, but it's what's the strategy behind it? And a lot of organizations will spend lots of time thinking how they're going to use it, spend lots of money, talk to lots of vendors and consultants, and come up with something that no one uses. And so we believe that more of an incremental approach, try it out, learn from it, experiment, will be helpful. And I think the employee engagement piece, here's an example. We're working with a client. They had 60 steps in their onboarding process, 60. And imagine experience from a new hire we go through. So AI has the ability to take that 60 and maybe make it 30, or maybe focus on the ones that are most problematic. So it reduces the impact, the number of steps. And so that I think really can drive employee engagement, and that can be applied to anything in HR. Most of the practices that we expand, whether it's recruiting, whether it's benefits, the more that we can customize it, the more that we can streamline things, more that we can kind of automate routine tasks, will allow the HR practitioner to focus on more productive things. Now, there's a skill issue there, right? Some people, when you talk about AI, they'll say, I love it. Half the room will say, I can't stand it. Get it out of here. I'm waiting to retire, things like that. And so it does require a level of training and change management. We often overlook that piece of any implementation. It's really how do you change behaviors? because people learn and unlearn things at different speeds. And so how do we manage that process? So again, lots of potential upside, but we have to be careful how it's implemented.
That's right, Wayne. Thank you. Does anyone have any thoughts to add?
Yeah, I was just about to add to that, because I think when we're talking about the impact of technology and AI on almost like the evolution of employee engagement and retention, we're also looking at how the listening mechanism have evolved over time. So you would have done one survey a year. Now you have open communication, you have open feedback as well. So like response and a complete feedback loop that is constantly open within the organizations. You're also expanding from just looking at a handful of metrics into doing ecosystem listening. So how people react over messages, and if they use something like Viva Engage, and you're doing sentiment analysis, and what's being posted on almost like internal social channels for the organization. So I think that as a whole has evolved, and using AI as an overlay on that allows you to understand and do sentiment analysis, pick up themes of what people care about and what they communicate the most about, what are multilingual as well. So you can have, I don't know, 40 different languages being translated and pick up some of that sentiment analysis. And could also potentially, if you have a very well-structured HR technology ecosystem, you could trigger almost like predictions of, do you see people's engagement dropping and them having specific type of conversations? Do you see them navigating on your intranet towards the pages that look at what's my notice period and anything like that? Do you see like a direct correlation between what's happening with their sentiment analysis, their engagement, and their journeys internally and technologies with results, which could be people resigning? So that could be like pathways that the AI can model for you at speed. Imagine how many people you would need in an organization of about 30,000 people to do that manually. With AI, you only need that machine to be monitored and corrected and adjusted over time to be able to pull up and drive more correct outputs of data. So almost like that's almost to what Anuj was saying earlier. I'm thinking about AI is coming in not necessarily to replace us and to take over human intelligence, but actually to expand the human intelligence. So if you're thinking about AI adding about 500 extra points to our IQ, that is almost like how I'm imagining AI contributing to our world.
I could use
I'd
some more
like to
points to
add
my IQ, by the way.
I'd like to add something to what Wayne and Cyprian said. You know, it is said we are as strong as our weakest link. And sometimes your weakest link is also your strongest link. Now, when it comes to retention, I've had certain projects where we actually have been able to reduce attrition by at least 8%. And I think the credit goes to both the human intelligence and the AI model. Like Chipin was saying, there are early signals, there are early warning signs. Now, in an organization, there are multiple different systems people use. If we are able to integrate those into a data lake and apply data analytics and AI models in the right way, you can figure out easily what are those early warning signals. And for that matter of fact, marry that with the employee engagement factors. Now, why would an employee want to stick with an organization? What are those stickiness factors? It could be very different for 10 different people or 200 different people. If you're able to do that persona wise or individual wise, you know what is going to create that stickiness factor for that employee. So your entire employee experience journey can be recasted or re-architected to befit that respective employee. Now, whether it is from a standpoint of health, wellness, well-being, or compensation, or learning, or talent, or the way the person behaves in the organization, or the ways of working, or the flexibility element of it, your data that you use in the AI models can definitely help you redefine all those and create true value as a business operator, as a value creator, as a people developer in the organization. But it all depends on how strong is your weakest link, which again it has to be your data that goes in.
Great points. Cyprian, as a leader in employee engagement, what challenges have you encountered when integrating AI into employee experience initiatives, and how can these organizations overcome them?
I love that. And I think Wayne and Anuj both tackled that element of the quality of your data and the interconnection of your HR technology. So I think sometimes we're thinking that AI is going to solve all of that, but AI is as good as the data that we have and is as good as the interconnection between technologies that we bring in. And I think when you're looking at AI, think about it as being just another piece of the puzzle that needs to correctly connect into everything else and drive sense making. One of the things that I've seen done in organizations is you're asking the AI to constantly criticize the data that is receiving rather than just accept the data that is receiving. So almost like you're baking in a mechanism when the AI does not willingly accept all of the data being put through it, but actually assessing it. Another element that we've seen across sort of the use AI, and not necessarily in engagement and experience, but is the ethics considerations. So we've seen it used slightly in, well, wouldn't necessarily say in an aggressive way, but when it surprises people to the extent of the depths in which it could operate, it's causing concerns. So we know of organizations that have used AI modeling to understand and predict people's attrition. And on the back of that, they've triggered almost like HR workflows. So if you are a person that you're being defined as being a high talent and high potential within the organization, bringing revenue and growth to the organization, and you visited the intranet page that will say, what's my notice period? That will immediately trigger an HR workflow that someone in HR is going to give you a call within maximum 24 hours to check in on you as a random pulse connection. That sounds wonderful from an HR perspective, that you have all of that data and you can actually stop good talent from leaving the organization. It also raises a lot of considerations of what other things are we monitoring from an HR perspective that will trigger sort of concern from individuals and how we use the data and their behavior. The other sort of landscapes of challenges in AI is we've seen an explosion in the market of everything is AI based, everything has AI baked into it at the moment. And I almost feel like saying there's good and there's bad AI. So there's AI that actually operates the way it should. You can explain the mechanism behind it, and it's actually empowering, it's closed loop, it doesn't leak any data, it doesn't put your organization at risk. And there's other parts of AI in the tools that you can see out there that put your organization at risk, that might cause cybersecurity concerns, or they're open AI, therefore they would use part of your data and other clients that they have to almost like remodel their insights, but then that data becomes accessible to other individuals as well. So there's like, probably I can go on for about 40, 50 items of considerations and risks. It's just that element of constantly thinking about benefits versus risks and how you navigate that within your organization.
I think, Cyprian, you nailed it, and I think that you hit on so many of the challenges. And ethics was one that I was going to bring up, and so you addressed it, which is super important. But at the end of the day, I think with all of these challenges, the way to circumvent goes back to a human aspect, which is change management and communication. So, do you want to integrate these technologies into your organization? First thing you need to ask yourself is why? What's the objective? What am I trying to obtain? And once I have all of these answers, once I understand what I'm trying to reach, then you must communicate that to the employees so that they're willing participants in your AI, in your data gathering data unethically and without the person knowing, is not our favorite things. I shook my head a little bit when you said the thing about HR reaching out 24 hours later. I mean, it's an invasion of privacy. I was trying to do something on my own and I'm looking at something. So I think a huge reminder here that it can be absolutely beneficial But the most important thing is to understand, what are we doing it? Why are we doing it? And once that's done, communicating it to the rest of the group so that they can buy in at the end of the day.
Great point, Sally. Thank you. Sally, with your background in improving organizational performance, what role do you see AI playing in driving meaningful improvements to employee engagement and satisfaction?
Yeah, I mean, I think my colleagues here have already addressed most of it, and the ways that we can improve all of the efficiencies and productivities with the data, good data, not garbage in, garbage out, but good data, making good decisions with the data that we're acquiring. And so I could get into the details of, okay, increasing engagement, increasing productivity, making better use of our time, etc. But I think I'm going to, forgive my language, shit disturb a little bit, because I think the best use of our time, once we are relieved of Excel spreadsheets, of data management, of all of that stuff, is to go back to being at the core a people leader. So enabling that whole open door policy. Well, now I've got the space to open my door and to have the difficult conversations. Okay, AI is telling me that perhaps you're feeling a little bit low. Your vocabulary is feeling a little bit darker. Okay, well, I don't want to get into the analysis of that too much. Let's go grab coffee. Let's go have a conversation, developing empathy. As our computers are teaching us and our kids and the next generation about all of this information, how are we now learning to manage that information? How are we dealing with that information? It can't all be scientific. It's got to be emotional management as well. It's got to be empathetic. It's got to be sympathetic. So I think for me, my best use of AI is to utilize it to do what it does best, and then tap into the human nature to do what we can do best that AI has yet to obtain, which is emotions and whatnot. Those are my 2 cents there.
From a performance management perspective, I think it has a lot of upside. Continuous feedback. Typically now, in October in the fall, we all become what we call spreadsheet jockeys. We're trying to you send out information, you want to get it back. Did this guy send it back? Did this woman send it? You're kind of running around trying to find everything. And you have to nudge people and threaten people to kind of get things done. And so I think that's one area AI can be helpful in terms of helping you manage what's missing, automating responses, get people to know. So that's one area. The other area is, ongoing feedback. Typically, we have our once a year dreaded performance management session where we talk about things, maybe happened 2 weeks ago and forget about things that happened 11 months ago. And so it's recency bias. And so AI done properly has the ability to kind of give pulse connections, understand how you're doing. If you did a good job on something, it will remind you. If it found that you perhaps didn't do as much as you could, it'll suggest some development areas or remedial areas. So it'll put in front of you so you can kind of respond at the moment versus waiting a whole year till your reviews due. And so I just think in that area, making it more personalized, making it more periodic than it is now can really make an impact.
I love that, Wayne, and I think I'm just going to pull back to what Sally mentioned of helping leaders be more human, basically back into the workplace. And like there's a great example of someone using ChatGPT as a therapist and advice and picking up some of those answers. I'm having someone with some difficulties in the team. It's not normally my nature to have to address this, but I want to be sensible to the individual. What do you recommend that I should do? How should I address it? How should I formalize that meeting? Is it easier if I walk into their office or if I call them in my office? So all of those questions asked ChatGPT, and ChatGPT almost like learning across and understanding some of the behaviors and some of the preferences of the individual. And I think we're going to see more and more of that. We're already seeing a peak of chatbots being used in coaching and executive support. We're seeing them replacing some of the HR advice as well within our world. So we're seeing almost like AI is helping us, for the absence of other words, be more human as well. So if it's taking away some of these activities that have kept us busy in looking at spreadsheets and everything else, can it help us become more human and understand some almost like human-to-human interactions?
I was actually speaking with a leader in an AI organization yesterday, and she mentioned that we're actually not exiting, we're still in the chatbot time, but that we're entering a different time with the agency where the chatbot is going to develop more into an agent that can not only provide information but action. So, hey, you were looking for a restaurant reservation. Okay, that's the one you've selected. I've made the reservation for you. I've put down your credit card number, whatever. So to what extent, I'm not quite sure, but the more we're liberating ourselves from, let's call them menial tasks, which we still need to be able to do, but the more we liberate ourselves from those tasks, the more our capacity as humans, as people leaders, can be tapped into. And so actually something is that the skill set changes. And I don't know if you all agree, but 20 years ago, even when I entered the workforce, HR was still very much more on the admin front, and then it evolved to be decision makers and leaders. And now you're seeing even HR heads become CEOs of organizations. And I only think that AI entering our world will continue to enable the HR role into more of a business leader role, because our skill set, if you tap into it, becomes the skill set that is lacking from AI. So, I don't know what you all think about that, but
I think I agree with what you said, Sally. The trick lies in being high tech, high touch. And I think most people, in fact, I have been guilty and confess of trying to have over reliance on technology, which then leads to only high tech and not high touch. Something I've figured out over the course of the last 6-7 years in multitude of projects is that you need to figure out what AI should do and what humans should continue doing the way it is. All of us have certain skills which are uniquely human, which AI will never be able to replicate. Now, when you talk about employee experience, throughout this journey, there are many things which are more transactional in nature, and there are many which are cognitive in nature. I make it a point to consult and advise all my clients and even the companies I work with is that let the transactional bit be taken care of by AI. Let the cognitive piece remain with the humans, because AI cannot add that personal touch. Unfortunately, AI cannot feel, it cannot empathize. So when you do that, you are ensuring high tech definitely for all the transactional volume of work across the entire experience journey, and the cognitive remains with us itself, and we are able to fire our 80 billion neurons which otherwise will go waste in our brain. That's number one. Number two is the fact that you are still taking care of the personalization and hyper contextualization element when you are dealing with each and every individual. And number three is the fact that if you don't do that, then somewhere down the line, we are rolling back to one shoe fit all approach. But if you do it properly, it definitely does impact your business operating model, your HR operating model, where instead of doing more transactional work, now the HR workforce has ample time to upskill themselves to become more cognitive and take care of more strategic roles than actually doing, like you rightly said, the transactional or the operational stuff, which AI can definitely take care of that. So that's how AI augments your entire experience journey, not only for the employees, but for the HR team as well.
So I'm just gonna be slightly controversial and replace what Anu said from cognitive, because I think in the world of cognitive, the next generation of AI will do significantly better than we can do as humans. And I think we should allow machines to take on some of that. And I'm going to replace everything that he said in agreement that if I replace it with emotive, then I'm completely on board with the emotional connection, the relationship building, the human to human interaction is where we're going to spend more and more time around. Anything that is like cognitive, complex, numbers based, transactional, all of that we can outsource or augment through AI. And that will still potentially keep on part of that hyper personalization because we are taking into consideration people's needs, wants, pain points, how do they prefer to be communicated, when do they work, how do they work, how do they interact with the organization. So all of that can be picked up significantly better by AI and be taken into consideration rather than us as humans managing teams of thousands of people where we'll have to remember all of the details about their lives and everything else. So if you park the humans to do the human job and you move the machines to do the machine's job, I think that's going to work significantly better for what we envision as the future of work.
So even that, Cyprian, as I mentioned, I was at an AI event yesterday, and this AI leader was saying that she has a notebook that she is putting in notes manually, like writing notes into. It's an electric notebook that she manually writes notes into. And that notebook is becoming her AI. So it's so much so that she's a leader. She's having multiple conversations with multiple people every night. And she's writing down notes. Like I may not remember your name. I don't remember that you're from Florida. I don't remember all of these things because I do have limited capacity of what to remember. But imagine the next time you're meeting this person, you're asking your notebook, hey, I'm meeting this person. Do I have notes? And you can walk into a conversation. This is not cheating, but you're walking into a conversation. Hey, how's your daughter feeling? I know last time we spoke, she was feeling ill. So when you were saying augment, I think that is the key, is that we can now bring in the cognitive and feed it to our emotional and be literally better humans and better at relationship building and better at connection. So anyway, thought I'd bring it all together there.
Great point, Sally. I think that's the way the world is going to look like in next couple of years, where you feed in data and it gives the AI models give you multitude of options. You use your strategic or your brains. Humans are blessed with 80 billion neurons, and when those neurons interact with each other, they are about 10 to 12 synapses that happen in a second, and under those synapses there are over 100 switches. Now just multiply 80 billion by 10, multiply by 100. I don't think even the best supercomputer in the world can do that level of calculation. Unfortunately, human brain hasn't reached more than, as per the experts, 10% of utilization. But even if we do that, I think there is nothing that can stop us from becoming the best version of ourselves, where we and AI, humans and AI, coexist as each other's teacher and each other's disciple as well. We learn from AI, AI learns from us. Today, it's only one way. Today, AI is learning only what we have, what we have given. But we are not learning from AI. We are only picking up certain areas. So I'm sure that specific time is going to come very soon.
Go ahead, Danielle.
No, I was just going to say, does anyone have any thoughts on that? Go ahead, Sally.
No, I think there's actually quite a few questions on the chat that perhaps we can help pick up. Let's see here.
Yeah, I was looking at, I'm sorry, did you have one in mind, Sally?
Oh, go ahead, Wayne. Yeah.
And Jovi talked about, do you think it's a good idea to conduct L&D in prompt engineering in the HR space? So let me put a plug in for Hacking HR. I'm not paid to do this, but I'm taking the course on AI, the certification course, and it's phenomenal. I would highly recommend people do that. Many people don't know that you can actually train ChatGPT. It has a limited amount of information. It was built in, I think, last fall, but it doesn't always have the newest stuff. And it also doesn't have everything. So you can actually train it. And during the class, we actually created a chatbot that would actually you could use in your organization. And so I think getting a certification can't help, can't hurt. Prompt engineering is the prompts. What do you put into the system? What do you ask the system, and what does it bring back? And I think I've taken the course through Vanderbilt. I've taken this course through hacking. So it can't hurt because it's more of a what logic you have a need. Do you and Ricky calls it a framework. Do you have a framework? Do you set it up? Do you tell here's the persona I'm looking at. Here's what I want them to do. Here's the data. And then you sequence that in a way that the machine learning understands that and gives you the answer you want. So I would definitely spend some time in a certification course to really help you understand it better. Because it's like anything. Excel. Do we use more than 20% of the functionality? No. Same thing with Word. Same thing with Chat GPT. There's a lot of capabilities that we can use, but we haven't done so already.
I think somebody else was asking, what about skill sets required to stay relevant, which Wayne, you really touched upon with augmenting your knowledge about AI and what's out there, so that not only you can utilize it for yourself and enhance your own productivity and contribution, but also to become a salesperson for the rest of your organization in a way. So I would answer that question as after you have gotten the information about AI and your awareness there, maybe the next step is change management skill set. So I'm certified in ProSci, which I'm sure a lot of you guys know, but the ADKAR model is awareness, desire, knowledge, and then you bring in the whole thing. But in order to get buy-in from people using a change management methodology, there is some kind of a sales process in there to get their buy-in. So how are you going to do that? How do you get the rest of your organization bought in through communication, through awareness, etc.? And after that, we'll obviously enhancing all of the people approach and leadership is something that I think we need to start focusing a little bit deeper on.
That's great. Thanks for looking after some of those questions from the audience. I've got a question here for you guys. With AI being used to streamline recruitment, onboarding, and development processes, how can HR ensure that AI systems are designed and implemented in ways that promote diversity, equity, and inclusion rather than reinforcing any biases?
That's a billion-dollar question, Daniel, and that's a bigger challenge that I think all the AI experts today are grappling with. Because design bias is something that has always been there, and we are still figuring out ways to take care of that. The reason behind that is that at the end of it, all of us are humans. The one who's designing the specific statistical model, the respective machine learning algorithm, or the respective AI tool is at the end of the day human, and may or may not be aware of his or her own biases. And they creep in when you design that algorithm, and hence you get the respective outputs. Now, for that, what you truly need is an AI governance committee, an AI guideline, wherein, like in any specific banking system, you have a maker and checker concept. There is a maker and checker concept over here as well, to ensure that diversity, equity, inclusion are all taken care of in whichever tool you are creating for whichever process across the employee experience spectrum. And that can only happen when you have a diverse pool of people who understand that respective area and collaborate together to create that respective governance cadence and that respective guideline. There are many organizations across the world who actually have, in addition to a chief compliance officer, a role dedicated to ethical AI. Now, this role is very specifically only focused on ensuring that whatever AI models are being developed in that respective organization, they meet all the quality standards definitely, but also take care of eliminating any kind of bias that might have crept into whilst that respective model was being developed. And for that, they do a small MVP, a small pilot for each and every model with diverse set of people, and figure out what are the results, what are the various outputs coming in. And then their respective committee looks at the results, they study those results, and have certain AI experts in their team from all walks of life, from all different educational backgrounds or gender, or for that matter, ways of working or nationalities. And then they all pool in and ensure that this is covering each and every element and is not pro or against a certain respective area. So, in summation, a proper AI governance, definitely, your AI guideline and your ethical framework is required to ensure apt, apt use of diversity, equity, and inclusion in whatever you do across the entire spectrum.
So I'm going to pull us back to some research that was done, if you can believe it, about 4.5 years ago. So I think it was May 2020 that Cognizant launched a report talking about 21 jobs for the future for HR. There's 4 in there that are really relevant to your question, Danielle. I think the first one was human machine teaming manager, of defining what fits within the world of HR, of humans, and what fits within the world of machine, and how those will work interconnectively to make sure that the machine does not do anything that the humans would not agree with, therefore removing some of that bias. So imagine this was pre-chat GPT boom and everything else. We're talking 4.5 years ago. The second job was algorithm bias auditor. So people going in and understanding whether the algorithm that we've built and the rules that we've built within our technologies and AI have bias baked into it because we're pulling past trajectory of the organization rather than desired trajectory of the organization. The third one was chatbot and human facilitator. Again, looking at the intersection between what we're allowing machines to do and what we're asking humans to do, and how those augment each other so healthily that it allows people to understand how we're removing bias from our decision making and processes. And the fourth one was human bias officer. So not just technology based, but someone who sits in your diversity and inclusion team that looks across all of the ecosystem, how decisions are being made, how both humans and machines operate, to understand whether inadvertently or maybe by sort of mistake or design, we've created bias within any of our mechanisms within the organization. So that's the conversation we were having about 4 years ago. I think what you're seeing now is more amplification around how AI is playing a bigger part in what we're dealing with, understanding maybe like the micro elements of each diversity and inclusion element. So not just by dimension, but actually the subsections of each of that, of people's behavior, how they want to be treated, how they access or can't access specific tools, programs, how they work, when they get tired, what frustrates them, and everything else that's part of it. So it's becoming more and more of like a hyper centralized element of how we're designing experiences at work.
That's really interesting. Thanks, Cyprian. Any thoughts on what he said? Okay, we're going to jump into our next question. How can AI enhance employee well-being? And what are some examples of AI tools that improve the overall employee experience?
Well, I used to work at IBM, took a slight diversion into IT, and I was Scrum Master at IBM and Comcast, and I've been following them ever since. And so
You accidentally muted yourself, Wayne. Sorry.
I sound better that way, I guess. No, I was being in the IT space for a short period of time. I worked for IBM, and I could see, and I even follow them now. They're doing a lot of innovative stuff with HI. Of course, they're a big company, have lots of resources, and that's always a challenge, right? We're talking about big companies, but if you're an HR department of 1 or 3, you have other challenges. So I forget the name of it, but again, this process where they streamline the performance review process was one area. They've also done a lot of really good stuff on sentiment analysis. They actually could tell what people, not specifically to an individual, but they could tell what the groups of people are talking about. A couple of years ago, when I worked there, Uber was coming into effect, and they came out with a policy against that. Can't use Uber, got to use taxis, whatever. Immediately detected a huge outcry against that. And within a day or two, they changed the policy. And so by monitoring monitoring is the wrong term, but again, you're not attributing any specific individual. But if you see a lot of people complaining about something, or you see individuals talking about, God forbid, suicide or things like that, that can be detected now. And so you can be more proactive around that. If you see a group of people who are not performing, and the reasons might be emotional issues, physical issues, you can detect that now. And so I think, again, not being Big Brother per se, but looking at themes and data, companies could be much more proactive around that in terms of helping employees with their mental health, with diversity, with a variety of things.
What you're saying, Wayne, actually brings to light something that, in fact, the business world is quite behind on AI. If we're being honest, we're kind of the last to the table when it comes to that. I think it was 4 to 5 years ago. If you guys know the streaming platform Twitch, where people kind of play video games together and it's streamed, they were one of the first platforms to implement AI, in that because they have the largest group of children, young preteens that are at risk for suicide. Unfortunately, they are on Twitch, and so they implemented AI many years ago, where they were looking for potential hints about suicidal ideation. And that has changed that platform tremendously, where there's actually options for getting help on the spot with regards to mental health, etc. And data has really shown that has changed the world, and in other worlds for the better. So anyway, all to say that it does remind us that this has been around for a long time, and people were using it for positive change, and it's really time for us to bring that positive change into business, and to remember that at the core of business, the people doing the work are humans, and there's a lot that we can gather from that beyond just being more productive and process oriented. So I just wanted to bring that up there. Thanks for opening it, Wayne.
I think across the employee well-being spectrum, there are multiple themes, with mental health being one, physical health being one, financial awareness being one, and there are multiple such themes. Unfortunately, I haven't come across any single tool that works across all the themes. But depending on what is your end objective, what are you trying to achieve as outcome, I think one needs to look at the various tools which are there in the market, or for that matter of fact, invest in technology in your own organization, develop your own AI models that can actually create that personalized and hyper contextualized experience for all your employees when it comes to employee well-being.
And I think we've seen some of the engagement tools and some of the network analysis tools within organizations that have now started picking up proactive well-being insights. So determining whether people are getting quite close to like stress and burnout, or whether there's engagement risks. So I'm trying to remember whether it was the Viva Glint Insights that was showing you if people started working unusual patterns, or they are all the time in meetings, therefore they don't have time for anything else, or they are already starting to doing more hours in the day and their work is intensifying, to be able to trigger almost like flags to the organization on whether people are feeling the stress of going through like a peak time of activity. Mindful of that, there's all of these different tools, and I'm not advertising them, but there's sort of Glint allowing you now to like monitor how you're feeling day in and day out, and how you're progressing with sentiment analysis. As far as I know, that doesn't send any triggers to anyone, but sort of monitors how you're feeling and whether you're feeling down one day or positive the day after. So it gives you a bit of trend analysis on how you're feeling. There's a lot of well-being tools out there, or meditation app, or anything else that have started baking in more and more either conversational AI that I've seen, almost like light touch therapy conversations, or you're seeing recommendations being catered using AI algorithms to individuals. So I'm not necessarily a person that can sit still for a very long period of time because of my ADHD. Therefore, like calming meditation doesn't work for me, but then guided instruction works quite well for me. So like the AI application is actually pushing more content that is more relevant to me and my style, rather than sort of guided, sort of slow down meditation and background sounds. And we've also seen, because of these sort of amplified technologies, we've now turned on almost like 24/7 open lines and open support for individuals that allow us to make sure that people are okay, whether they are within the hours of work or outside of the hours of work, to make sure that we're supporting them accordingly. So you do have, I don't know, Calm and Headspace and a lot of thousands and thousands of apps that are now moving into the utilizing AI to amplify their proposition.
Thanks, Cyprian. I think that's all amazing stuff, and that's going to help a lot of people listening to this call today, I think. So thank you. Does anyone have any final thoughts on our topic today, using AI to reinvent the human experience at work, that we want to leave our folks with?
I think we are living in a we are living in a world where novelties of morning become obsolete by the evening. Next morning you wake up, there'll be something new. And my 2 cents are, let's not get into the FOMO effect and try and grapple with 20 different things at same point of time. And yet you need to be very selective and prioritize what you really want to do. Technology can definitely augment, it can definitely help you walk a longer path, bring in sustainability, achieve your objectives. But it can never take the first step. It has to be a human who has to lead the way, and technology can augment. And a very famous author once said, if the only tool you have in your kitty is a hammer, you tend to see every problem as a nail. So do add a spanner, do add a wrench, and do add a lot of tools to your kitty. But then again, you need to know, what are you going to work on? Are you going to work on a boat? Are you going to work on an aeroplane or a car? Or for that matter of fact, a petrol car, a diesel car, or a electric car. The tools are going to be very different. So you
And where are
need to
you
be very
going?
sure.
Where are
Where are
you
you
going
going?
with all those vehicles? Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's not try to grapple with million things at one point of time. Change is evident. Things will keep changing, but you need to be sure of where you are going, like Sally added, and what you really want to do, and then prioritize and focus on sharpening your human skills in addition to learning the new age AI.
I would also add that you should just get started. In HR, we tend to do paralysis by analysis. You're not going to get it right the first time. You're going to mess up, but that's okay. That's expected. So I would start in an area that would give you the most pain, onboarding, keeping track of all these performance reviews, whatever it is. Start small. Try it, fail, learn, get better at it. That's really the only way to do it. And that's what my recommendation would be for people listening.
These are all great final thoughts, and I thank you to all our panelists today. You guys were awesome and very helpful. And we're going to leave today with some great information, and we will be back live on October 14th. The title of our panel would be HR Analytics and AI, Turning Data into Actionable People Insights. So I thank you all very much and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.